Am I the asshole for asking my girlfriend to start making me breakfast every morning? I, 27 male, have been living with my girlfriend, 29 female, for several months now. For the most part things are really good and I plan to propose soon and hopefully have at least a couple of kids with her. However, we've run up against a conflict. She's an absolute morning person. I hate mornings. By the time I force myself out of bed in the morning and into the shower, she's already been up for at least 30 minutes even though she has to be at work later than I do and is at the stove making breakfast. She likes a huge breakfast in the morning. She usually has eggs, either French toast or pancakes, hash browns or breakfast potatoes, and sausage or bacon. Sometimes on weekends it's ham or steak. She eats almost nothing for lunch and usually has a smallish dinner, but she loves a huge breakfast. Meanwhile, I only ever have cold cereal for breakfast, or maybe if I'm feeling really ambitious some instant oatmeal and orange juice. I only even start to come alive halfway through my second cup of coffee and definitely don't feel like cooking in the morning. However, my girlfriend obviously does. So recently I asked her if she'd start making breakfast for me, too. She asked if we were going to trade off and if I'd sometimes make breakfast for her, too. I told her, no, but reminded her that I do often make dinner for her. She said that since we trade off making dinner we should trade off making breakfast, too. I told her that there is no way I'll ever be able to muster that kind of energy first thing in the morning, but that since she obviously can, that she should just make me breakfast too. I said that it would take next to no extra effort on her part to throw in a couple more eggs, strips of bacon, an extra portion of hash browns, etc. since she's already doing it for herself, anyway. But it started a fight, with her saying that it wasn't fair for me to expect her to think of me in the morning since I don't do the same for her. She seems to think that her making breakfast for me should figure into our division of labor and that I should do something extra in return. But I think that since she makes a huge breakfast for herself every morning anyway, that throwing an extra portion of whatever she's making on for me would take next to no effort on her part, so why should I have to do more for her in return than I already do? You are the asshole LMFAO. Oh, so we'll take turns making breakfast for each other? Oh. No, you'll just make food for me, it's no extra effort for you anyways. The cheek on you. You are the asshole. You should make dinner every night if you want her to make you breakfast daily. I'm trying to understand because I didn't get it. You want her to make her breakfast for 2 in the morning because you don't have the strength to, but it's not supposed to count as a chore like the rest? You are the asshole. If you want her to cook you breakfast every morning, you should cook dinner every night. If waking up 30 minutes earlier and helping make breakfast feels impossible, and you somehow think you'll have kids someday and preserve this childish preference, then you are the asshole. Am I the asshole asking my wife to pay for my daughter's birthday? My wife, Maddie, have been together for 5 years. I have a daughter, Rachel, 14, and son, Mitch, 11, from my previous relationship and a stepdaughter Talia, 14. We always have had separate finances and originally had similar paying jobs. While hers has definitely become better than mine, we have stayed as we are, aside from shared expenses being split more equally. Around 7 months ago we found out Rachel is sick. I've been doing everything I can for her, trying to help her and the best treatment I can afford. But the issue is I can't. I'm draining my savings and can barely afford more basic treatment. I can pay for necessities and treatment, but nothing else. Maddie has been financially fine throughout. She's paying more of the necessities, but she's constantly buying Talia things, taking her out, letting her do things that I can't do for either of my children. I know we agreed to have separate finances, and it's not wrong per se. But it's definitely been causing some conflict, though I've tried hard to work it out. I know that it's my responsibility, but it's just not working well. I can't afford extracurriculars or for them to go out with friends or special dinners or anything. Rachel's birthday is coming up, and I want to do something nice while we can. I asked Maddie for help, if she can cover her birthday because I can't. But Maddie refused. She is paying almost all the essentials, and doesn't think she should have to pay for this. That she knows I can't pay her back and it's my responsibility. I understand all that, but it's not fair. I'm not asking for my own sake. Rachel and Mitch are already missing out on so much, and I know how horrible Rachel feels. I just want this one good special night for her. Edit. A few people didn't understand. Rachel is terminal. This is likely her last birthday, which is why I want it to be a real one. Also, I was told to add this. Maddie currently earns 2.5x as much as me, doesn't have medical expenses obviously, and pays 80% of the necessities. Ignore the 1-2k. It's not accurate. My budgeting method makes more sense in practice since having more money saved than needed is never bad. But clearly it doesn't work here. Edit 2. I am sorry, I am bad at math. Alright. Pretend I said 500. I don't actually need 2k. The 1-2k was clearly dumb, because I wasn't going to whip a calculator out for an am I the asshole post. Christ's sake, it's not a relevant argument. I didn't ask for 1-2k from Maddie, it was just a stupid throwaway estimate I made here. Not the asshole. Refusing to pay for your sick stepchild's birthday when you are perfectly capable of doing so is pretty harsh. Though I think it's time you and your wife sit down for a more serious conversation, as one part of the family enjoying a much nicer lifestyle than the other is going to start fostering resentment, especially between the kids. I just really feel like there is more to the story. Nah. You're not the asshole for asking. So for the title question, you're fine, however your wife has steadily taken on more of the essentials until she's paying for all of it if I'm not reading it wrong. You want her to pay all the living expenses plus all the extracurriculars and holiday presents. Christmas is right around the corner and you can't afford a birthday party. Where is your daughter's mother in this? Have you even looked for a better job with better benefits, or does each time something comes up you expect your wife to shoulder the burden? Am I the asshole for booking my toddler a first-class seat? My husband, toddler, almost 3, and I were flying across the country for Thanksgiving. Since we could afford it due to a nice pay raise my husband recently got, we decided to splurge on first-class tickets for the trip. Disclaimer: my toddler has always been a good flyer and has flown a lot throughout her short life. We follow our pediatrician recommendation to give her a dose of baby Tylenol and gripe water 30 minutes before travel, and she's never been disruptive or cried on an airplane, this flight included. She's good at staying in her seat and tells us when she needs to go potty, food, a toy, etc. She stayed seated and quietly playing throughout the flight, only getting up when she had to go potty. The issue was with another first-class passenger. We boarded early since my husband is disabled, and when another first-class passenger saw us he started glaring. Shortly after he sat down, a flight attendant came up and asked to see our boarding passes to make sure we were seated correctly. We showed her our boarding passes and she was like, "Cool, y'all are good." A few minutes later a second flight attendant came up and asked again to see our boarding passes. We showed them and again she was like, "Cool, y'all are good. We take off and all is good." My kid fell asleep in the middle of coloring. Husband is snoozing. I'm listening to music when I get a tap on my shoulder. It was the guy that glared at us as he boarded, and before I could even get a word out he told me that children weren't allowed in first class and that we needed to move to our real seats. I realized he was probably the person that complained before takeoff that we were in the wrong seats, and decided before I got upset I wanted the flight attendants to deal with this. I told him that I did not feel comfortable talking with him and that I was calling a flight attendant to come handle this. He got flustered but ultimately stood awkwardly next to me in the aisle until a flight attendant came to clear things up. The flight attendant came and explained to him that we were in the correct seats that we paid for and asked that he sit back down and not bother us again. He did go back to his seat, but as we were getting off the plane he whispered to me that I was a fat cunt, and that he pays too much money for first class to be surrounded by children. My kid was the only kid in first class and she didn't misbehave or even cry, so at first I felt like I was in the right. But after talking to family at Thanksgiving many of them told me that we should book economy next time because people pay extra to relax in first class. Are we really assholes for flying first class with our toddler? Not the asshole. Even if your child did cry, it wouldn't have mattered because you paid and are entitled to the seats you paid for. There is no age limit or policy that children can't be in first class, that I am aware of. If they don't want to be around children, other people that bad, they should fly private. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my daughter back to her biological mother? To avoid confusion, my daughter, Millie, 14, is biologically my niece. So what happened was, years ago when Millie was about 3, my sister, her mom, Layla, 38, left to work in another country, leaving Millie in my 44M care. Millie's father died before she was born. Layla had promised to send money for me to take care of Millie and that she'd call and visit as often as she could until she could take Millie to live with her permanently. After she left, she called probably 3 times in the first 2 months and then went AWOL. For years I'd tried to find out what happened and assumed the worst, only to hear from one of her friends a couple of years later that she got married to someone else and has an entire new family. I was heartbroken because Millie would ask when her mom was coming back and I never knew what to say except, soon. But even she grew tired of it and realized when she was about 8 that her mom wasn't coming back anytime soon. That's if she was coming back at all. Because of this situation, me and my wife were granted parental rights to Millie and she couldn't have been happier that we were officially her parents. Well, what do you know, after 11 years, Layla finally graced us with her long overdue return last week, along with her new very wealthy family and 2 children. Most of the family was happy with her return but me, my mom, dad, and my wife were nothing short of furious. She tried to explain but all that we heard was, I abandoned my own daughter and made a new family. As if that wasn't enough, she practically demanded her daughter back. Mom and dad weren't having it at all and told her Millie belongs with me and my wife and that she no longer has any right to her. Welp, there she goes screaming at me about stealing her daughter because I was infertile, and to hear that come out from her mouth hurt me in a way I've never been hurt before, to the point where I cried and left. Me being infertile has always been my weak point, and for her to casually bring it up like that despite being my sister broke me. For the next days, I prevented her from contacting Millie and I haven't told her that Layla is back because I'm scared I'll lose my daughter. I'm a human being too. I get attached, especially to someone I've had to raise, that too out of my own pocket, not that I'm complaining. I believe Millie is my daughter and I can't let her go back to the very same woman who abandoned her. Does this make me taw? Edit. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. All your criticism is valid and I really appreciate you guys for making me realize that I might lose my daughter by keeping the return of her mom away from her. I'd also like to apologize for the way I phrased some of the things. By no means do I think of my daughter as some possession. She is her own person and doesn't belong to anyone. As such, I've changed the phrase, belong to belong with, to accurately represent what was meant. I love you guys for all the support you've given me and I definitely will consult a lawyer. Me and my wife have agreed to tell Millie about her mother tonight and we will make sure it's all about how she feels and not about us. Not the asshole. She did nothing to raise her for past 11 years and your parental rights are legal. With that said, Millie is about 14 now? So perhaps the better way is to ask for her opinion and who would she prefer to stay with. Not the asshole, you are her parents. If the state has granted you parental rights due to child abandonment, you are her parent. If your daughter wants to see her biological mother, I wouldn't prevent her from doing it at the end of the day, however, you are still her parent. Not the asshole. But talk with your daughter. Tell her everything, with calm, and try to comfort her. If she knows for another person her mother is returned and you didn't tell her, it's woman be worse. Be nice to her, and respect her choice if she wanna talk or she her. She is 14, and need to know what she fell and choose matter, and no matter what you are gonna be part of her life and love her.